When I first heard this story, it was just framed as some dude in California who took a bunch of drugs and went on a drug-induced rampage, where the cops ended up shooting him several times, and I was like, wow, that's a crazy story, but what's really there? And then more information came out. It turns out this guy worked at YouTube. I kid you not. So I have two stories. They're both basically the same. YouTube software engineer injures 8 with pencil, garden light, and vehicle during LSD-fueled rampage. Now here's the thing. I am no expert on drugs, but I'm not, I could be wrong. I mean, I never thought of LSD, like acid, to be something that would make someone go nuts and start attacking other people. Maybe like some speed or an upper or something. But hey, man, I guess when you're tripping, you can go nuts. So I am the opposite of a fan of drugs. I do not like drugs. I think drugs are bad. I don't smoke. I drink maybe like twice, maybe 3 times per year, if that, and only for very special occasions. And I have never done any kind of drug or hard drug, nor will I ever, because when you look at a story like this, you kind of, I mean, this is, look, I know these kinds of things are few and far between, and you'll get someone like Joe Rogan asking if you've ever done DMT, and they talk about shrooms. I'm not about that stuff. I do not like the idea of ceding control, right? And this is what you get. So I don't know if I don't think it's relevant. This dude is a YouTube engineer, but it's still a weird story. So let's read this, see what happened, and then we'll talk a little bit about drugs, because I don't really talk about drugs a lot, and I think there are a lot of very high-profile people who do. So we'll go over some drug philosophies. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a monthly PayPal option, a cryptocurrency option, and a physical address. And of course, just share this video if you like it, because YouTube doesn't share my videos anymore. I kid you not. I did a video, like 2 videos in the past couple days, just talking about immigration law, and YouTube said that was hate speech. So I didn't get a strike or anything, but it was demonetized specifically for being biased. So it's like, all right, man, look, you guys know I'm a tepid milquetoast fence sitter. If even I can't, get monetized, so I really do rely on you guys to share. But let's read the story. From Fox News, LSD-fueled rampage in California leaves 8 injured after man stabs others with pencil, lawn light, police. How do you stab someone with a lawn light? What is that? They say this was one very bad and violent acid trip. A man in California was shot by police on the 4th of July after a drug-fueled rampage left 8 people injured and a vehicle lodged in a rental home. The Sonoma County Sheriff's Office said in a news release, the suspect, 32-year-old Batai Kofi, is charged with 2 counts of attempted murder, 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, and 1 charge of carjacking for the incidents leading up to the officer-involved shooting. Kofi, of San Francisco, was staying with 5, quote, longtime friends who had rented a home in Bodega Bay for the Independence Day holiday weekend and arrived on Wednesday. And I'll pause right here to make a point about this. This is what I'm talking about, ceding control. Dude's gonna get he's being charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and was, listen, he was shot several times. Put that aside. That's messed up, right? Well, you do drugs, This dude was hanging out with his friends, and they were like, you want to try acid? He was like, yeah, and now he's gonna go to prison. It's like, why would you open yourself up to that kind of thing, But let's read on. They say during the day on Thursday, police said that Kofi consumed about 2 doses of the hallucinogenic drug LSD, also known as acid, and had become delusional by 3 p.m. Around the home, as friends had tried to calm him down. Between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m., Kofi then took 2 more doses of acid, and by 8 p.m. wanted to leave as his friends tried to stop him. Several members of his party took a half tab of acid, but Kofi took 4 doses of acid, and he had a really bad trip with it, Sonoma County Sheriff Sergeant Spencer Crum told KTVU. So maybe it's an issue of don't do 4 doses of acid. I mean, I'll say this, man, don't do drugs. Straight up. I tell people, you want to know the secret to success? No drugs, hard work, eat healthy, exercise. Other people will disagree, sure, fine, but I'm a very, very anti-substance. People have always said, Tim, are you straight edge? And it's the weirdest thing ever. It's no, I'll drink a beer, it's not like I've never smoked. I've smoked cigarettes and pot when I was younger, and I was like, why waste your life? I'm not saying, just doing it one time is wasting your life. I mean like your physical cells in your body and like the energy you have in your brain cells. I'm not going to waste that, man. I'm maximizing potential, exercise, eat healthy. You gotta focus. But hey, man, look, I'm fairly, on the liberty side. So you do you. So long as it's legal, hey, man, do your thing. But this is what you get. Check this out. This is where it goes. This is where everything goes south. As he was hallucinating, police said Kofi punched a woman in the chest and side, then stabbed a man with a pencil before choking another man and punching a third man in the face. The 32-year-old was able to get outside the home into his rental car, backed into another car behind him, then drove toward one of the men who dodged him and crashed into the garbage of the home, lodging it into the structure. Oh my God. Kofi then took off on foot and encountered a security guard who patrols the subdivision, attacking him. He picks up a landscape light, like a solar landscape light. He picks it up and then stabs the security guard with the metal end of it, knocking the guard to the ground. Oh, man. So I think what they're talking about is they have these things you buy at Home Depot or whatever, where it's a lamp with a metal spike and you stick it in the ground. And he straight up tried to stabbed the guy with it in the chest. Oh my. After stabbing the security guard in the chest, Kofi then stole his truck, which was unlocked and running. Speeding away, he then drove straight toward a couple who were walking on the road and violently hit a woman, leaving her with significant injuries, according to police. The man was struck on the arm but was not seriously injured. After striking the first couple, the sheriff's office said Kofi then drove toward another man and woman who were walking and, quote, aimed at the woman and hit her with the truck, causing significant injuries. He's intentionally running people down, intentionally ran 4 people down. The couple that, according to security cameras, they say, the couple that did not see it coming, who were walking arm in arm, it's really sad. And when you watch the video, you can't help but feel emotional. The rampage finally came to an end when a sheriff's deputy and California Highway Patrol officer arrived, by which time Kofi had driven through someone's yard, hit a wall, and continued back on the road. The sheriff's office said that when Kofi saw the officers, he turned the truck and drove straight at police. When the deputy who had gotten out of his car started firing, Kofi continued accelerating and struck the CHP vehicle as the deputy fired his weapon, according to police. Kofi was struck at least 3 times through the windshield and was airlifted to the hospital along with the first woman he ran over. He was listed in critical condition at an area hospital. The woman received significant injuries but were not life-threatening, according to the sheriff's office. If this guy had kept going, who knows what he could have done to other people, Crum told KTVU. He was just blatantly going after people, driving after them. The security guard and second woman hit by the truck were transported to a local hospital by ground ambulance and were expected to survive their injuries. Kofi's friend in the house his friends in the house treated their own injuries. The officer involved shooting is under investigation by Santa Rosa Police and the Sonoma County District Attorney's Office, while the Sonoma County's Sheriff's Office is investigating the assaults and events leading up to the shooting. The deputy has been identified as Jason Pissarro, an 18-year veteran of law enforcement who served for 14 with the San Bruno Police Department before being hired. Yeah, okay, whatever. They go on to say, Kofi's Facebook page shows he is a Stanford-educated software engineer who worked at Microsoft before now working as an engineer at YouTube. Are these the people at YouTube that are demonetizing my videos? Like, I feel bad. This dude took drugs, then went off the rails, and he just ended his life. Was it worth it, That's what's crazy to me. Finally, they say, the sheriff's office said the incident was captured on video and intends to release the deputy's body-worn camera footage. So I'll tell you this right now. This dude, so look, wow, that's a photo of him. This dude struck a couple that were just walking down the street, significantly injuring this woman. I can only imagine what that dude is thinking when his girlfriend, significant other, gets slammed into by a car from some dude who's tripping balls on some crazy drugs. And then I'll make this point too. This is an example of the unfortunate circumstances for police, I would say. There are very few people who genuinely want to hurt other people. And here we have a cop who, and look, based on the story, had no real option, but had to put this guy down, He shot him 3 times. It's a sad story. So let's talk about drugs, man. Because here's the thing. This dude, I'm curious, because I think a lot of people might make this argument. Was he already suicidal and depressed without the drugs? Was it the LSD that was the defining factor that made him go over the edge? It's hard to know for sure. And people will definitely argue it, especially when you Like, again, my understanding is that LSD is not something that makes you go off the rails and attack people like this. But hey, it can happen. I've heard horror stories. I've heard horror stories about people hurting themselves seriously with, I'm not going to get into great detail, but yeah, people tripping and then just losing it and hurting themselves. So this could be that. There are a lot of proponents, like a lot of people I know back, like a lot of my friends are very like pro hallucinogenic, the idea of microdosing. I think they actually have this over here, microdosing. This idea that you take a teeny bit of LSD every day to like improve your performance. And there have been some really interesting studies about LSD actually improving, like kind of like opening your mind and helping you learn and approach problems from new perspectives, that LSD can do that. And there's a lot of stories about how, a lot of people believe, I don't know if this is true, that like great apes 50 or like hundreds of thousands of years ago ate psilocybin mushrooms, and that's how humans came to be. I don't know about any of that. What I do know is when you see a story like this, is the several hours of fun you might have worth what, like, this is a lottery ticket, right? So again, let me preface, maybe this guy was already nuts. Plain and simple. Maybe he was already angry and depressed and suicidal, and the drugs were just like the straw on the camel's back. I don't know. But what I'll say is, if someone offered you a lottery ticket, and if you won, your life would end, you go to prison for attempted murder, I'm not going to buy that ticket. That's crazy. I don't even want to entertain the possibility that something like that could happen. And so, for me, looking at like drugs in general, damaging to your body in most circumstances, a lot of things are. But I try to eat healthy and exercise and do my best. I actually have resveratrol here. I take that every morning. It's interesting because I'll watch Joe Rogan's podcast, and that's how I decided to actually buy some resveratrol. And there's like some other stuff they talked about, NAM or NMA or something. But then also, Rogan talks a lot about DMT, and I'm not gonna act like I know his literal position, like his actual position on all these drugs and everything. But you get a lot of people in popular media that are going to be like, no way, man, that was not LSD, that was something else. But all I can really say is, when it comes to protecting my body, maintaining control, maintaining focus, I personally am on the no drugs. Now, let's talk about legality. I'm a fairly liberty-minded person, right? The problem here is this dude went nuts. And so sometimes people go nuts. With or without the drug, sometimes people will go nuts. So should we have these drugs be illegal because sometimes people go nuts? I actually kind of lean towards no. I think it was Portugal, I could be wrong, that like legalized everything. I think the best thing we can do in this country, one of the best things, ending the, quote, war on drugs, which is nonsense, or whatever it is we're doing. I mean, look, recreational pot is being legalized across the board in many states. I think it's a good thing. Look, I don't smoke. I don't like it. I don't like being around people who smoke. I don't like drinking. I don't like drugs. I don't like people who do drugs. But you know what? Hey man, do your thing. This is about someone deciding for themselves they want to go into the privacy of their own home or with friends and enjoy something in their body. Hey, what can I say? It's different in the sense like some people would argue like people are ingesting a poison, they're damaging their body. It's like, yeah, but drugs are very, very different. We have a lot of legal drugs. We have a lot of illegal drugs. I think recreationally people should have they can do what they want. There's a greater challenge, and the more traditionalist, nationalist argument tends to be that a nation with legal drugs will have a lot of people doing drugs and it'll break up social cohesion. But I actually don't know if that's true because I've seen reports that when drugs get legalized, drug use goes down. And not only that, if you do legalize drugs, you replace law enforcement with therapy. So you have a lot of people who can safely go. Imagine if they legalized like hard drugs like heroin. I'm not saying this is the right thing to do. I'm just saying one potential that I've heard is that you will then have addicts going into a clinic or a shop, and they'll have a controlled dose around, some people with first aid training, and that will prevent overdoses and death and could actually help people break addiction. Right now, it's similar with alcohol. Actually, I got another story about this. Right now, it's like people go and hide in the shadows and they get disgusting, dirty needles and get diseases and other nonsense. So it's like end prohibition, put people in facilities and help them get off the drug. But interestingly, there was an incident I read about when I took like a 2 months of like a community college course in criminal justice back like when I was 18, I think. And one of the things we studied, one of the stories, And this is a common story, was an 18-year-old went to college, and they started partying, and they got drunk, and this young man passed out drunk, and his friends put him on the couch, and the next morning he was dead. Just dead. And they were asked why, they didn't call an ambulance, and they said because he was drinking illegally. They figured he would just sleep it off. They thought something was wrong, but they were worried that if they called an ambulance, they'd all get in trouble. And there you have it. Adults, people who are over the age of 18, being told you will get in trouble for drinking beer. It's always been crazy to me that you can choose to die for your country, but you can't choose to have a beer afterwards. Like, that's insane to me. Like, if you can sign a contract, you can have a beer, right? But then again, I'm not the expert on these issues. Just my opinion. And I don't talk about this stuff a whole lot. But I will say this. I'm very strongly anti-drug use. But I'm also very, very strongly anti-authoritarian, anti-government. And I don't think the government necessarily knows what's right. And I think the quote-unquote war on drugs has resulted in recidivism. It leads to harder crimes. It leads to black markets. I think it's a bad thing. And I think there's a better way to do it. Anyway, I'll wrap this up here. I'm not going to do a big rant on drugs beyond this. But there you have it. YouTube employs LSD-fueled Rampage, and now his life is over. Let me know what you think in the comments. Leave a review if you're on the podcast, and I will see you all in the next segment at 1 p.m. youtube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you then.